always ensured the excellence in every single activity and event in the campus. The university offers more than 160 different undergraduate, postgraduate, and doctoral degree programs through 34 institutions. There are about 28,000 plus students studying in the university, which reflects the popularity of the university among the student community. It is a constant endeavor of the university to achieve excellence in delivering different programs, special units of the university, such as the Entrepreneurship Development Cell, Training and Placement Cell, Career Development Cell, ensure the overall personality development of the students. The university attracts a number of foreign nationals because of its outstanding global reach. At present, there are about 1,200 plus international students from 49 countries pursuing full-time degree programs in the university. Research and development forms the backbone of our curriculum. The staff and students are involved in various innovative research activities. Such is the vision of conducting online international conference. Good morning to one and all present here. On behalf of Parul University, Ms. Aishwarya Nair and I, Ankita Purohit, warmly welcome you to Online International Conference on Innovative Trends in Language, Literature, Culture, and Online Education. To our eminent speakers and delegates who have come from all over the world, we are indeed honored to have you here with us. We feel immense pleasure to inform you that we have more than 250 participants from various states of India and abroad. Zora Neale Hurston says, I quote, research is formalized curiosity. It is poking and prying with a purpose. Unquote. Such is the curiosity brought by this online international conference that encourages research and offers an excellent platform to discuss strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats involved in language, literature, diaspora, linguistics, pedagogy, online education, and other related studies. The Online International Conference is an academic event organized by Parul University. The aim of this conference is to identify various language learning techniques and concepts prevailing in global education scenario. At this juncture, I would like to take the opportunity to welcome our convener, Mr. Santosh Nair, Senior Director of Training and Placement Cell and Career Development Cell at Parul University. Heading the Training and Placement Cell, Career Development Center, as well as Industry Academia Partnership Cell for all 34 institutes at Parul University, he has the key responsibility of planning and execution of motivating, nurturing, grooming, and training of the students in terms of their soft skills, technical skills, and aptitudinal skills in order to make them industry ready. I welcome you, sir.
Please unmute Santosh sir. Unmute your mic.
Yeah, sorry. So thank you, Ankita. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So very good morning to one and all. As a convener of this conference, I, Santosh Nair, Senior Director Training Placement and Career Development Cell at Parul University, am very much delighted for this official occasion. And I believe that this is going to be an unprecedented event for the research scholars, participants, presenters, and my dear students, especially to those who belong to language, cultural studies, and literature background. I would like to welcome all the dignitaries present here on the dais to this first online international conference on innovative trends in language, literature, culture, and or online education. It's actually a matter of pride, a great pride, I would say, for me to be a part of this international conference as a convener. Being online event, it covers a wide range of subjects in language, translation, literature, cultural studies, and online education that welcome presentations dealing with new interdisciplinary perspectives in these fields and other areas of investigation. Through this conference, we aim to bring together scholars and graduates who are researching the intersections of linguistics, cultural and literary studies with a particular focus on language and literature, gender and sexuality, race and ethnicity, diaspora and its discourses, cultural images, and recent trend of online education and its challenges in the context of current global pandemic situation. So here the stage is all set for the scholars and intellectual minds to foreground their research work. Hope we, through this particular international conference, we all enrich our knowledge at the end of this event. Thank you very much to all the research scholars and participants for participating in this particular event, and to all dignitaries once again to be a part of this online international conference. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to welcome co-convener of the conference, Dr. Om Joshi, Assistant Professor at Department of English in Bhaktan Kavi Narsi Mehta University, to share his views about the conference. I welcome you, sir.
Good morning and a warm welcome to one and all who present here. I am Dr. Om Joshi, co-convener of the international conference. Welcome all of you in the online or a digital conference of Parul University, Vadodara. This is a pride moment for a CDC department to organize such a useful and innovative conference during, or we can say after COVID-19 pandemic, where we all are aware about the recent changes in education system. Parul University hosting an online international conference on innovative trends in language, literature, culture, and online education. I am very happy to share with you more than 250 research scholars, students, professors, and other academicians will share the research in this international online conference. The overall goal of the conference is to facilitate the knowledge regarding the conference themes and active exchange of information among the research scholars on innovative trends in language, literature, culture, as well as in the online education. To accomplish this goal of the conference will facilitate the learning's dynamic and interactive environment, where the opportunities will be created to share the research result, as well as we can say for the discussions and sharing of the experience and drawing of the proposals and recommendations on a paper presentation and research work. Regarding the theme and content of the conference, being an online event, it covers a wide range of subjects in language, literature, and so on. We can say with the new interdisciplinary perspectives we are going to discuss here in this online conference and in this and other areas of investigation. I hope and ensure the conference will be very useful, profitable, and knowledgeable for all the researchers. All the best and have a good day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, I take the privilege to welcome our patron, Dr. M.N. Patel. Dr. M.N. Patel, being a scholar, is a provost of Parul University. Earlier, he was Vice Chancellor of Gujarat University for a period of 3 years. He was also principal in LD College of Engineering, Ahmedabad, Gujarat, for 10 years. He's awarded for numerous numerous candidates for their master thesis, conducted many seminars, workshops, and training programs in the state. I welcome you, sir.
Good morning to one and all. I, Dr. M.N. Patel, presently the Provost of Parul University. As a patron, I welcome all the participants, guest speaker, and so those who are interested hearing or participating in this 2 days international conference. First, I will start with congratulations to our placements department, Senior Director, Mr. Santosh Nair has took this pain to have this type of conference with collaboration of, I think, Bhakta Kavi Narsimha Mehta University as well as with the Gujarat University, Dr. Jagdish Joshi and Dr. Om Joshi. So I consider that it is a good interaction, or rather interdisciplinary or inter-institute relation development conference. Before I start or speak a little bit pertain to the conference, content of that conference, as it is said, it is for language, literature, culture, and e-education. So little bit I will talk about the e-educations. So this is one compulsion for us, as we know that the COVID-19 coronavirus global pandemic is creating a global learning crisis in addition to a global health crisis. Researchers suggest that 80% of the world learners are no longer in traditional schooling or colleges. Due to the present scenario, all learning teaching process are going on the e-form. And as a part of that, we are now going, instead of seminar, to a webinar, and hundreds of seminar at Parul University we have conducted in similar that all our officers and all our directors are having this type of conference, seminar, workshop, and so on. So due to this reason, online learning plays a major role in education sector for helping the student to study remotely and helps for solving the present crisis due to Corona-19. We have been talking about the virtual classroom, and virtual online tools today allow us to make the engagement between the teachers and students as close to the real in classroom type experience as possible. Going to forward, these tools can also make the teachers, parents meeting as well as the staff management meeting more time and cost saving while providing the necessary interconnectivity. What I am saying that what are the benefit or the good part of this e-learning. In our Parul University, we have taken initiative of a various digital technology such as a Google Classroom, which is used to streamline the process of sharing the file among the teachers and students. Students can be invited to join a class through the private code or can be invited through Gmail domain to join into Google Classroom, and along with that, it aims to create an assignment by the teachers and for grading of assignments in the paperless way. Moreover, for the students, teacher can easily create a test quiz and also it can be assessed. Google Hangout Meet is also used for delivering the lectures among the students, where maximum size around 75 students can be participated at once. Moreover, it is one of the secure platform for communication where there is no barrier of communication and internet bandwidth usage is very less. Another major feature is teacher can share their PPT among the students and can record the class gathering in Google Hangout meeting, can be scheduled using the Google Calendar before time. Zoom platform is also the platform which widely used in the world. It is used for communication between teachers and students individually and also in groups. Using the Zoom platform nowadays, teachers are conducting Viva and also solving the doubts among the students. Moreover, it is user-friendly, which can be used in any mobile or using any laptop. SurveyMonkey is a tool that allows us to launch any kind of online survey project, be it for the purpose of market research, a quick poll, competitive analysis, and customer on the employee feedback. The easy way to use the platform allows us to take this survey according to our defined target audience, which is free of cost. Moreover, in our university, teachers and students are taking online MOOC courses for ePathshala, NPTEL, Coursera, Swayam online courses for learning a new technology which helps the career growth. All these steps will be strengthened in country's digital learning infrastructure in long run. COVID-19 has not only accelerated the adoption of technology to deliver the educations. So this is one part that why this e-learning became, that is no doubt be compulsion, but we have we need the human interface with the student for good communication. That is always be there. It never inspire the young mind. That is the word which we have seen the eminent scientists of our Bharat Ratna C.N.R. Rao spoke against introducing online classes for the children. He also suggested that up to 2 standard, there should not be such online classes. But we are here, we are talking for our college or higher education or technical education. So this is one of the things why we are supposed to go by in this way. Now, some of the points when we are going to take the help of e-learning, obviously there are some suggestions from my side. As so far school teaching is concerned, nowadays we are facing at government of Gujarat made that there is no classes, so there is no fee can be charged from the student. It's a very serious decision that government has took, and as a result of that, the entire system, as so far school teaching, let almost paralyzed. Then they have started just teaching the student. Ultimately, it is going to be lost to the society. We hope so that a good solution may come, because you are thinking for the parents, those are not having the income, but at the same time, when the school are not running the classes, obviously they are not going to pay the teachers. Here in Parul University, from very first March, when the lockdown start, we have never faced any financial crisis, and our all staff members, they are getting that salary in very first week of the month, and that still today we have received it. And that is only result of that our students are paying the fee. If students are not paying the fee, obviously the teachers may not get the rather salary. Then again there is a starvation, or so-called the difficulty to the family of the teacher. As so far Gujarat is concerned, we have 18,000 of villages and more than 17,000 of schools, private schools, where at least we count that 10 teachers are there. And obviously 1,70,000 teachers, and if the fees are not paid, then that Sanchalak Mandal cannot give the salary to the teachers, because government is not supporting to that. So again, that starvation go to the family of the teachers. So like that way, this issue should be resolved jointly. But at this stage, whatever option which we are left behind is just to go for e-learning in order to save the time, because the year 2020 is a very difficult year, and we are supposed to pass the 2020. Apart from any other financial or other parameter, we can live on the earth only when we find out the solution of the safety of this corona. As so far in school is concerned, to my opinion, I have some suggestion that instead of e-learning, we can give some project work to them, drawing or painting, craft work, or we can give some storybook to read. Like that way, we can change the method of teaching. Instead of to sit constantly 3-4 hours on a front of a screen, it is very, very difficult, not only for the student, it is also difficult for the teacher also to be, and people like me, those who are senior citizen, for them also to see for a screen for number of time. But unfortunately, I have to sit in front of the screen for more than 6-7 hours. The reason is, as presently I am the member or EC member of GPCB, where we have to scrutinize about more than 200 industry project, rather mining project, construction project, to whom we have to give the environment clearance. So one will take half an hour. So obviously, since last month, I am remaining busy from 1:30 to 6:30 to see all this file, and I feel that what difficulty we are having, but there is no way out, and I have to do that. So some of the advantage of our e-learning is there. It can save the time, because at a time, as we see that today we are having more than 250 participants are going to join. Normally in a classroom teaching, we have a limitation, about 60 or 100 students have to be there. In general, we can say that we are not coming out on the road. Obviously, there are several problems, traffic issue and other, that also can be little bit resolved. And due to that also some accident by which caused the death. As we have seen, the number of deaths due to accident is more than what the death are causing due to corona. But we have never bothered about that accident which caused on the road. But this is one of the advantages in this locking period. We are not coming out on the road, and obviously the part of that, the traffic and rather the issues are less, accidents are less. And also it is advantage that one can work parallel. Here in my office, I am using 3 devices, and at a time at the 3 things, I can operate that. So that also saves the time, because I can attend this EC of the GPCB, I can attend this type of seminar, webinar, I can attend my teachers' lectures, which is going on at present we have about more than 1,000 lecture every day going on in this. But the advantage is also be that we should have some sophistication as smartness in ourselves is increased. We have learned a lot of new things in technology which can help us so that we can deliver in the best way. At the same way, there are several disadvantages of that. Good computer literacy is required for anyone. And I think little we can say that the one-to-one eye contact is not there, so there is a less effectiveness. And as a result of that, unemployment is going to be the big issue. When everything is going to be online, obviously the resources became online, then the manpower or human resources will be reduced. That will cause the unemployment. Especially we are talking for the ladies parents. What happens to that? Their kids, those who are going to school, They are not knowing that much to how to operate the computer or laptop or iPad. They have to sit with them. So they have to give the time for them. Some of the ladies which we have observed at our organization, they have left the job or they have just on the working from the home. There's a reason that they have to attend their kids at their home while they are just learning for the school. So like that way, there are several plus and minus point is there, but situation has compelled us to go this type of thing. But in short, I can say that landscape is evolving with the technology. Now, in the last, I can say that I am the provost, and as a patron, I commence this international conference on innovative trends in language, literature, culture, and e-education of Parul University. I welcome all my chief guests, guest of honor, speakers, participants, presenter in the first even online international conference organized by our CDC department of the Parul University. CDC has taken phenomenal initiative and to assemble the people from the different parts of India abroad. The international conference will undoubtedly assist the entire, enrich ourselves in terms of literature and language. As so far languages are concerned, so many languages are there, so many bolis are there, but how to convert it into e-learning, that one of the lesson we can learn through this type of thing, because various presentation will come which also give some of the good things, and we can go for some e-learning, pedagogy, higher education related aspect. Herewith we will ensure and provide you the platform where we can fulfill the goal which we expected in terms of research. So I would welcome to presenter and their unique research papers on this international conference. Again, my best wishes to entire team, CDC team. So rather chief guest and other resource person to this will definitely lead to some concrete solution, which will definitely strengthen and increase the motivation of all those who are attending. Thank you very much. And again, best wishes to all of you.
Thank you, sir, for your awe-inspiring and motivational speech. Now, once again, I take the privilege to welcome our patron, Dr. Devanshu Patel, a dynamic, visionary, and proactive leader and president of Parul University, who has been lauded for his efforts and support in encouraging researchers from the university to take up, publish, and promote their research work through starting Research and Development Cell at Parul University.
Ankita, actually, unfortunately, President Sir has gotten some urgent engagement, which was at a very short notice. So, unfortunately, he will not be able to join. So, we can continue with other dignitaries.
All right, sir.
Now, I warmly welcome the guest of honor, Mrs. Pareen Sumani. She is a multi-international award winner, an international motivator speaker, and an eloquent author, and president of Shantidut Parivar UK Women's Wing. I'm sure she would have inspired a lot of minds in her professional and her personal career. I welcome you, ma'am.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible, madam.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ms. Nair, for your kind introduction. I would like to thank Patron Dr. Patel, Patron Dr. Devanshu Patel, Chief Guest Professor Dr. Jagdish Joshi, Keynote Speaker Professor Dr. Paresh Joshi, Guest of Honor Professor Shaleen, Convener Mr. Santosh Nair, Co-Convener Dr. Om Joshi, and other dignitaries and the organizing team for inviting me here. It is my honor to be part of the conference amongst the fantastic speakers who are sharing their knowledge. It is my pleasure to deliver a short concept speech sharing their knowledge, and it is my pleasure to be on this conference of the innovative trend in language, literature, culture, and online education. As we all know, the world has been disrupted as a result of this global pandemic that we are currently living in. Prior to this, our interaction with each other was referred to as a normal human interaction. But the notion of the word normal in society today has no definition and is constantly been altered. This is difficult for us because we as a human being are the creatures of habits and do not like change. Our mode of language communication has been altered. We must adapt to these changes, otherwise we will be left behind in many aspects of our lives, and we forget that even the surface of the earth at the equator moves at the speeds of 460 meters per second, or approximately 1000 miles per hour. So within this ever-changing world, and particularly after the COVID-19 pandemic, we must find our innovative methods of language communication and to share with each other. Before the COVID-19 pandemic and the implementation of lockdown measures and the social distancing regulation, most of our communication took place through human interaction. Living in a technological era, we made use of technology usually as a supplement to assist our communication. But it was only our primary method of communicating. During the pandemic, there has been a rapid transformation, and we all have seen that. We had to use the innovative methods to collaborate more than ever before. We are using video conferencing software, digital applications, and devices to connect people all over the world. It has been proved and has been provided opportunity to create a unique platform for participation in the international conference, just like this, where we all are from the different countries sitting at one place and having a conference together. When we talk about languages itself, there are many languages. It is multi-dimensional aspect. Yes, there are approximately 7,111 international major languages spoken around the world, which constantly fluctuate. As more being discovered about languages every day, in India, there are around 22 major languages with more than 19,500 languages or dialects has been spoken around the world. And 19,500 languages or dialects that are spoken in India as a mother tongue, that is only through verbal communication. Non-verbal communication is also an important part of human development. Both were used together prior to this pandemic. Languages have a very important social purpose, as it is used mainly for linguistic communication. This language communication can now occur through technology, educating people all around the world. This includes those individuals residing in rural areas who would not have access to technology advancement prior to this pandemic. Through this, students across the different cultures, background, locations can engage in education to develop and share the knowledge with the society. Yes, this pandemic has brought many challenges. The world is upside down, but you know how to turn it back. You are the future, the masters of your own destiny. When people around you are unwell, hungry, power and money you make alone is immaterial. We want to be important. We want to be part of the wider solution, not the problem. For how? I have 3 tips. I have 3 important tips to share with you. Number 1, believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Nothing in life is constant. Even a caterpillar changes a beautiful color. And even a caterpillar changes into the beautiful butterfly. So believe that you have strength to create a positive change and inspire others. Do not be afraid. The world has faced previous challenges: war, disease, political unrest, financial crisis. We came out resilient and stronger than ever before. We learned from the past and created a better future. You can make this country a prosperous again. Number 2, follow your instincts. Do the right things. Do not forget your ethical values. Be kind. Be humble. Be generous. Fair. Help each other. And connect with people that need your help. Number 3, be the person that build bridges. Be the person that build bridges and respect the diversity despite the background, ethnicity, social, political, or religious outlook. Remember, this is your country. This is our country. You can change the future. You can make all the positive impact on the society at large. Start with your family and friends. I always believe that by working together, we can make a positive global change. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for those inspiring words. I'm sure we are all very motivated by this. Now I welcome Chief of Honor, Jitendra Shalan, who is Professor in Department of English and ESL, School of Advancement, Centennial College, Toronto, Canada. I welcome you, sir.
Thanks, Aishwarya. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay, thank you so very much. Dear dignitaries, according to my watch, it is 1:13 a.m. So if I seem to be exhausted, kind of tired, or sleepy, please pardon me, because it is 1:16 a.m. In the beginning, I would like to thank Parul University for giving me this opportunity and Dr. Jagdish Joshi, who invited me to join this conference. The title itself, Innovative Trends in Language, Literature, Culture, and E-Education, is very interesting, appealing, and pertinent. Now, we use Zoom and we use our virtual classroom platform. So Google Meet is kind of new to me. Can I open my PowerPoint on this screen? If somebody can guide me. Say,
Yes,
for example,
sir. You can. Yeah, sure. You can click on the present now button on your
present now?
on
Yes.
your right side, of your bottom of your screen.
Okay.
Just click on
I
it.
see. Right.
There will be 3 options. Your entire
Yeah.
screen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, click on entire screen. A dialog box will appear in your center of your screen. Click inside that particular dialog box. A share button will be enabled.
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, I just missed it, man. Okay.
Yeah, now it is okay. Now what you do, you just minimize your browser. Yes, minimize this browser.
Minimize browser. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Now you can make full screen of your PPT.
Of my PPT.
Yeah, make the full screen and yeah, just
Okay.
press
Yeah.
press F5. Yeah, fine. Yeah,
Fine.
it is viewable. Yes, sir. It is viewable. Your video is viewable in the right side to all the viewers. Okay.
Okay. I cannot see my my video. Is that
Right now
okay?
you're sharing a screen. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
All right. So basically, I mean, the title is Innovative Trends in Language, Literature, Culture in an e-education, which is my passion, which is my research. So moving to the next slide. Let us focus more on language and literature. Colleagues, when I present in different webinars, seminars, conferences, one question is always asked to me. And the question is, what has more employment opportunities, literature or language? Let me explain. So for example, if the teachers would like to immigrate to different countries, especially English-speaking countries, and they want to have some employment, they generally ask these questions. Please remember, I would focus my presentation on innovations, but let me explain the context. The answer to this question is language, because say for Indian students, there is a huge exodus of Indian students to Canada. They need language. They need to communicate. They need employment. And that is why language has more opportunities. Now, it doesn't mean we can ignore literature. I love literature. My passion is literature. However, whether language or literature, we have to teach both with multitude of innovations. And how we can introduce innovations? ICT, information and communication tools. Please remember, when you use ICT, you have to use variety of tools and not uniformity. Just posting videos doesn't make much sense. Your ICT tools must match with lesson outcomes, with that particular course outcomes, and above all, course outcomes and program outcomes. Colleagues, let us involve as much as instructional activities as possible to introduce innovations in our teaching. Interaction, collaboration, and student-centered approach is highly essential, whether it is online learning, whether it is blended learning, or whether it is face-to-face learning. Whatever innovations we are talking of, we have to have this in our mind. Students, if gone are the days, and I hope even in India also nowadays it might not work or might not have been working. Here, student-centered approach is more important. Whatever innovations you would like to introduce, please remember we should encourage collaborations. That is group work, pair work, projects, practices, activities, etc. Please remember, hands-on experience is very much needed, even if you are teaching language or literature. Let me give you one authentic example. I'm teaching English 219 course. Colleagues, this course is a capstone course. And this course, I have to teach at the highest level when my students graduate from Centennial College and York University. I was teaching this course, and this course is meant for automotive students. Now, automotive students are mechanics. They would not like to sit in the class and listen to my long lecture. I did it, I failed. In the very next semester, I have to introduce some innovations, and I changed my approach. I took my whole class into language lab. And then, so for example, I have to teach them how to write a report. So I give them, first I teach for some time how to write a report. Then I give them different scenarios. They choose their own scenario. They write the report, and then their peers give the feedback. They modify the report, and then as a teacher, I give my feedback, and they modify their report again. This is the way, depending on the context, depending on the class, depending on the audience, we have to introduce our innovations with the help of hands-on experiences, even in literature and language. The next very important concept here is culture. Post-COVID-19 pandemic situation. We have talked, we have heard, and we will hear a lot about it. Students, please listen. Colleagues, I'm sorry if I use my word students, please pardon me. So this is the era of e-education. We cannot deny it. My reverend colleagues, veterans, they were against online education because they like F2F education, and I understand, because F2F education has a different is a different phenomenon altogether, different from online education. But now everybody of us has to teach online. So international boundaries are being blurred. Remember, in fall 2019, colleagues, I would be teaching my students online, and many of my students might not have been even in Canada, because Canadian High Commission has made a provision that the students have to study 50% online in their home countries before entering in Canada when the situation becomes normal. Colleagues, a language teacher, a literature teacher can teach in other countries, from another continent altogether. And my students would be from almost all the nationalities of the world. Here comes the culture. And that is why I always insist in my presentation that a kind of cultural course, a cultural primer course is required, is needed, because cultural differences are huge. When my students see my students, that is my Indian students, being in India, studying online, they have to realize this, that their colleagues, their classmates are not only from Canada, not only from India, but from all over the world. Different cultures, different perspectives, different perceptions, attitudes, aptitudes. We have to keep them all in mind as teachers and as students as well. Faculty expectations are different. So whatever innovations the faculties are making, the students must be ready to accept those innovations. They have to accept self-responsibility for learning. And I'm very sorry to say, but our Indian students are lacking in this self-responsibility concept. They have to take responsibility for their own learning. Remember, simple communication pattern and expectation. Many of my students, when they immigrate from India to Canada or from other countries, especially India, when they write the email, they say, "Respected Prof. Dagmar Wabrusa." Here in North America, it is very alien. If you write something, the teacher will be feeling kind of suffocated. So here they write, "Dear David, dear Dagmar, dear Jeet," etc. When I share this with my students coming from India, they say that the teacher is respected. She's very old. How can I use the first name? At the very same time, when they write "Respected Prof. So-and-so," North American professors are not comfortable with that kind of address. What my point here is cultural expectations. And that is why we need more innovations. Third slide, e-education. I told you before also, post-COVID-19 pandemic situation, online learning and teaching has become a new reality now. Please remember, we have been told very clearly by the ministry, by the government, by colleges and by universities that complete F2F education might be a misnomer now. We don't know when we would be having those days when we would be in the class F2F, face-to-face. So we have to be prepared for online education, blended education, or in the coming future, face-to-face if possible, with innovations. And when we talk of innovation, according to my experience, Based on my 25 years of experience, blended learning is the best option because it combines the best of both the worlds, that is face-to-face education and online education. I like blended learning because it does not replace a teacher absolutely and completely. We all academicians, we have to be careful about it, because some people think that online education replaces the teacher, which is not possible in blended education, because 50 to 70% components would be online and the other 50 to 30%, 50 to 30% components would be taught by the teacher. So expert, experienced, skillful, and knowledgeable professors are always needed for blended education. Please remember, we are talking of innovations. I repeat, just uploading the content such as scripts and videos will not make much sense, colleagues. We have to be very innovative. And what is innovative? Innovativeness includes variation, novelty, creativity, interactive content, and collaborative exercises. Remember, feedback is also very important when we talk of innovations. Automated feedback on MCQs. Please remember, when we talk of innovations, we should not use the haphazard platforms. We have to use, this is the time, even in India also, to use proper learning management system if we are going for innovation in our education. And when we use LMS, that is learning management system, whether it is Blackboard, whether it is D2L, whether it is Moodle, please try to understand that we have to make a good provision for feedback as well. Automatic feedback on MCQs, and we have to be giving, we have to give constructive, timely, and motivating feedback on descriptive assignments. And the last slide, when we talk of e-education innovations, both assessments are inevitable: formative assessment and summative assessment. We cannot have only summative assessment. We cannot have only one final exam at the end of the semester or year. But please remember, whatever assignments we introduce as innovations, they must be assets for the students for the whole life, and not the garbage approach. And what is garbage approach? Many a time students write assignments, submit them, and forget. They don't have any practicality. They do not apply those assignments anywhere, anytime in their professional career. So we have to have those assignments, such as projects, such as portfolios, such as presentations. I repeat, combination of MCQs and descriptive options assessments are essential for introducing innovations. Please remember, when we give the assignments, we should not give them only one option. Just write it and submit it. No. We must give them different options. One student can use audio podcast and upload it. One student can record his video and post the screencast. And some students, traditional learners, might have even written scripts, might submit even written scripts also. Please understand, colleagues, when we talk of innovations, we have to talk of UDL. And I know when in India I talk of UDL and accessibility, some people do not take them seriously, but this is the time, because it is the era of online and blended education. Please have the awareness of UDL, and please make your content accessible to the student. This is the most significant innovation we can make in our teaching and learning. We have to address multiple learning styles while introducing innovations. My last 2 points, and very important points: critical thinking and research analysis. Colleagues, I request you, when I was teaching in India, I was not much, and I should be very honest with you, I was not much thinking about critical thinking and research analysis. I hope in concurrent Indian academic fraternity, people are thinking of these two very important components. Please remember, introduce some assignments in which students have to use authentic, reliable, peer-reviewed, scholarly, current research. They have to write something on research-based. Last, academic integrity. I regret to inform you, my colleagues, when the students come to Canada or any North American country or even European country like UK, they don't know. They don't know the expectations. They copy-paste the things. And they think that they are doing research. They are getting zeros. And sometimes they are thrown out of the courses and the programs. We have to teach them while introducing innovations. We have to tell them that remember, whatever information you are taking, we have to paraphrase it and give the credits. I'm really sorry, but students do not know this. So please, when the students are in front of you, it is your duty to teach. It is my duty to teach them references, citations, and different citation styles. I know it's very difficult to cover everything within 5 minutes, but I tried my level best. If I have taken some more time, I'm sorry, my apologies. Thanks again for inviting me, and I wish you all the best for the whole conference. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was very informative, and I'm sure that we'll try to bring in more innovations in our language classes. Thank you, sir. Now I welcome our chief guest, Professor Jagdish Joshi, Professor and Director at UGC Human Resource Development Center, Gujarat University, Ahmedabad. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you. First of all, good morning to all the friends here in India, and greetings to all from outside India. I would like to congratulate Parole University for organizing this online conference on the theme which is really something which is to be addressed in today's environment. So I would like to congratulate the team of Parole University for organizing this international conference on innovative trends in language, literature, culture, and e-education. It's always a privilege, and I would say that it's very interesting and it's a privilege to listen to Dr. Amin Patel. He has been a mentor of us in Gujarat University when he was Vice Chancellor here, and we have been working with him as a team member. And apart from that also, he is a person who is stalwart in technology and many other pedagogies. So I'm really thankful to the university that we got a chance to listen to him. I would like to greet Devanshu Patelji, the president of Parole University, Mr. Santosh Nair and Om Joshi, the convener and co-convener of the conference. Very happy to listen to Shalin and Pareen once again. Shalin, it's always a joy and learning when I listen to you, and similar it is there when I listen to Pareen. So very happy to be with friends once again on a different platform. And the platform has given a chance to talk to each other like this. I would like to concentrate a little bit on the topic which is decided, the innovative trends in language, literature, culture, and e-education. I understand that this conference will come out with novel ideas, innovations, and some practical approaches which can be applicable in the present scenario. I would suggest it to the organizers of the conference that after your research papers are presented, you should form a committee which should review the research papers, and those who are qualitative, they are to be published on some platform which can be useful to the society and the world in general. When I look at the topic, there are two things which I am more interested in. I love all the 4 items which are included in the topics like language, literature, culture, and e-education. But I would like to focus on 2 dimensions, that is language and e-education. These are more dear to me than those literature and culture. And I'm very happy that Shaleen has taken very good examples of culture and communication, how culture makes a difference in communication. Really, it is very much needed when we talk on international platforms and we meet people at international platform, or maybe at different places. I would like to say, when I think of innovations or innovative trends in language, there are few things comes to my mind at the first outset, which I would like to talk about. And the first thing which I would like to start with is, again, I would like to quote Shaleen here. His personal opinion, I respect it. And the opinion is, he said that personally he believes that blended learning is something which he suggests. I would like to start that with blended learning only. I would like to say that it is one of the innovative trend, blended learning. It has to be thought of, and it is to be discussed during the conference, the pros and cons, and how it can be implemented in an effective way. Apart from blended learning, I would like to say that the tool which we carry in our hands, the mobile phone. See, earlier it was a time when mobiles were just used for picking up calls and just dialing call to somebody. But now the mobile has changed our world. It has become almost a part of our life. I know that many people, when they wake up in the morning, from that time to when they sleep in the night, what they see is the mobile screen. So the first thing many people see in the morning is mobile screen, and the last thing they see is the mobile screen. So we must try to look at, and people are using it in optimum way, and we can try to use it in an innovative way. So mobile is something which can be used really in a very effective way, because there are many mobile friendly versions of different kind of applications which can really be used very effectively in the class or outside the class. It has built-in spaces and whatnot. We can go on for a whole conference on mobile learning, how it can happen. But that is something which I consider as one of the innovative trend as far as language teaching and learning is concerned. Gamification is something which is the latest trend. See, it was a time when at the preschooling level, or maybe at primary level, teacher used to use a lot of games to teach their student. Why can't that be practiced again with the tools which we have? These tools of TOL, that is technology-aided language learning, has given us a lot of opportunities to play with such things. And games at any level, I tell you friends, it depends. We should choose the games which suits to our audience and the culture and the customs. And we can certainly think of gamification of language learning. That is an interesting aspect which we really should look at it. If I quote some of people, I tell you that there are countries in which whole country has a gaming fever. Like when cricket is played, like Cricket World Cup is there, India is under the influence of cricket. I've seen in North America when basketball teams are there and they are playing basketball, they are under the fever of basketball and whole cheering, and you won't believe me that on the screens everywhere, even in the public transports and everywhere you find the big hoardings and special tunes of that. And even the football teams, that happens for the football teams also. So this, I want to say that okay, we can get those trends into education, but yes, game is something very near and dear to human beings. So we can certainly make optimum use of games or gamification, and we may go for certain researches based on that, and that is also something very important as a trend. We can look at it as one of the very recent trends. Embodied learning. So like courses such as Doodle Town, which Macmillan English comes out with, uses visuals, audios, hands-on activities to stimulate and inspire learning, pitting young learners to draw, create, and be inquisitive. So like there are other developers like Orbit is there, and they also develop young learners for socio-emotional and cognitive skills through a language course. So see, language course can really develop so many skills of a student, and we can look at embodied learning, and that can also be helpful to our learners and for us also as a research, because it involves using the mind and body both. collaborating, discussion, exploring. Learner needs to emotionally, intellectually, physically, and socially engaged. That is what happens in embodied learning. So that is also something which is very important for us, and that can help us in different ways. I would like to say that inquiry-based learning. So learning in a complex world, that is also something which is a seen in 21st century. The scenarios that teachers has come across in some course material and in some, I would like to say, some course materials of the universities which are in QS ranking at very high level, what they do is they simplify and they seem simplified and develop something which sometimes seem unrealistic, but it leads to a wonder sometimes, and that really creates some time of factor like wow factor in the students. And they get more interested in learning those things. Like if I would like to quote, I can say that courses like Fast Track, like it is of EF Education First Limited, and courses like Wider World of Pearson and BBC. So they are the courses which can be thought of like this. Even Pavilion Publisher has come out with some new approach of teaching grammar using this, and they talk about teaching grammar from rules and to reasons. So they talk about rules to reasons. So these are kind of inquiry-based learning. So they inspire inquiry spirit, and then they make us learn things in a different way. See, we all know that English is known as a lingua franca. So that is also something which is very important, and related trends. We know that people call it a lingua franca when the connect of English as a lingua franca was first discussed by teachers. There were academicians, writers, trainers, they discussed it a lot. But it was controversial at some time, but nowadays it is accepted that, okay, we can use it like this, and that can be a common medium through which we can learn and we can share a lot of things. See, we should look at some methods which are supporting learners for the specific needs. Sometimes learners have specific needs. I would like to say rather something customized like kind of thing. Nowadays, this online education can give us an option where we can even develop something which can be customized by the students. Like, see, I know that in India, when we talk of the classroom concept, it is very difficult because the number is very big. But if you look at some countries or some universities where the number is very small, and this is not something which they will feel novel, because they try to look at specific needs of the students and they try to deliver like that. But when I talk in Indian concept or Indian context particularly, I know that the classes are generally of 150 or like 200. So in that way, it is difficult for us to concentrate on specific needs of the students. But yes, when we talk about using online platforms, there are many such LMS, learning management systems, many such applications which help us to help those specific needs of the students, and that can be done. That is also something which can be looked at as a new trend and which will be very useful. Another thing which all of us are doing at present, I'm talking to you, and before me, quite a few experts have also talked to you. After me also, there are many friends who are going to talk about different topics and on different topics. And the university is doing a very good work that they are live streaming this on YouTube. So this content is simultaneously created. This is also something which is very important, and this is also counted as one of the very new trends. We used to create a content earlier. I'll take example more from Indian context only. If I would say, I'm not judging anything, but I would like to give an example that there are different kind of contents which were prepared by the teachers when they were going for teaching. There were teachers who used to prepare one notebook. I don't know when they prepare exactly, in the very early years of their teaching career or maybe at that postgraduate level. And that same notebook goes on till 10 years, 15 years or 20 years, and they have been teaching using the same notes or the same textbook. So this was one kind of teacher. Then there were teachers who used to prepare class cards, like you have lecture cards or lecture notes. And there are many other devices. But look at the present scene. We are talking and we are captured online, and our video is captured, and these videos will remain for years for n number of people. So see, sharing, creating and sharing has become a practice nowadays. Create a content and share it. The whole new concept has developed, and that I call YouTube concept. And see, YouTube concept is OER. You all know that it is open educational resource in a way, because anybody can access when you post something on YouTube. But at the same time, yes, there are some other ways. That is how the YouTubers earn money also. I don't want to talk more about it, but I'm more interested in the days are not far when people may prefer to go to YouTube more and less to the university. I don't know, because I tell you, friends, I would like to give you just two examples. Suppose you have some problem in fixing something. Say, for example, your computer has some problem. Some file is creating some problem, or maybe your printer is not working, or maybe some electronic tool which is complex and you don't understand exactly how to fix it. You have lost your manual, or it's not handy and you want to know how to fix it. The general trend people do nowadays is they go to Google, they just search for that how to fix this, and then Google shows them some documents and some videos. Apparently, video is the first choice than the reading material, because in reading you have to read, you have to understand complexities. In video it just exactly show you, not see if it is a very good manual, it may have steps also, that in manual step 1, step 2, step 3, but video exactly shows you how to fix it. So you can really have a look at the first step, you can pause the video, you can go to the second step, and then you can do it. My daughter, when she was trying a lot of cookings, and when she wanted to try some new recipe, just try to remember that, try to remember our age people, or maybe our mother, or maybe people in their 50s or 60s. What if they want to prepare some new recipe, if they want to prepare some new item which they don't know, what they try to do? I guess they will try to call somebody, maybe their mother or a sister or somebody, and they will ask them that, okay, I want to prepare this dish and how to do it. But look at the children, look at this native learners of digital natives, I would like to term them. Look at these digital natives, what they do. They just go to Google, they search for it, they go to YouTube, and they find out a recipe, and that is how they cook it. So I tell you, friends, the days are not far when these things will be very easy. These things are very easily accessible. So these things will be used sparingly, and they are used today also. So creation of content and sharing of content has become a new trend in learning, and which is to be looked at from a very positive angle. And I guess that is also to be discussed and to be looked upon in a conference, and maybe by the researchers who are listening to me. Another new thing which has come to us is now management of teaching and learning platforms. This is also something very new. See, just before some time, Shalin, I have all respect for him, and I would like to tell you, friends, that he has developed online courses, and he has done a lot of research on that. He is very good in technology, and he is delivering that throughout the globe. But at the same time, he said that, what I would like to tell you is, he just said that okay, this platform I'm using for the first time and I never used it. Yes, it is reality that it is not possible. There are millions of platforms and millions of applications which are available. So you don't know, you need to use something for the first time. But this gives opportunity to a new career and new research. And that is management of learning management systems. We may be very good as a teacher in content. We may be very good as a teacher in delivery. We may be very good as a teacher in counseling. But what about managing technology? I know that as it is very authentically said, that the world has been divided into 3 different categories looking at the digital knowledge or digital literacy. There are people who are digitally illiterate, there are people who are digital migrants, and there are people who are digital natives. So whatever category people fall in, it depends on how they have to prepare on that. So this is also something very new and very innovative, and I understand that some universities should take up this into syllabuses now when they form the syllabuses of English language teaching or of any subject, that how to manage language LMSs, like learning management systems. So this is also something which is to be looked at. I know that I can go on, and you also know that we can go on this topic for hours together, but I can understand the constraint of time. I'll just very quickly come to some of the technological things very quickly, and then I'll conclude my talk. Paperless textbooks. See, there was one concept which was implemented by our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat. And he said, Bhar Vinanu Bhartar. I don't know how many of you understand that because I spoke that in Gujarati. That means weightless education. There should not be weight. So exactly he meant that when a student go and carry his bag on his back, that bag used to be very heavy. And he wanted to reduce the weight of that bag, and that was very symbolic. Here I would like to remove the symbol at present, and I would like to say that we have paperless textbooks now. We have e-textbooks. So that is also something very interesting. There are institutes which I know, there are universities which I know that they, along with the admission fee, they take a fees of some of a laptop or a tab, and then they give a loaded tab or a laptop to the students on the very first day of the admission that, okay, whatever you require, whatever learning resources you require, they all are loaded in this. We have created a special email for you with all security measures, all security features, and that tab or whatever equipment they give, that can be used very effectively for teaching and learning and for communication. So paperless textbooks. Next thing which I would like to tell you is artificial intelligence. The use of artificial intelligence in today's classrooms has really transformed the quality of education. It can provide a great insight into students' learning and improve the overall process with better communication. Teachers can make use of its possibilities to speed up the grading and other daily choice. Just try to remember, I guess, because I can see these two friends at present, Pareen and Shalin, so I would like to tell them, and even Aishwarya Nairji also. But to all of you, I would just like to tell you that try to remember your compulsory classes. When you go to teach them, okay, teaching is very interesting, you love it, but when it comes to testing them, what is the condition? Till even today, I tell you friends, the biggest problem for traditional universities like Gujarat University or any other university is the assessment of the examination. If I talk about, we have around 3.5 lakh students. And if you talk about compulsory subject, so each and every student has to appear in the compulsory English exam. So 3.5 lakh question papers in one semester and 3.5 lakh question papers in second semester. Imagine, Shalin is smiling. I can imagine that what he remembers. We have a central examination system here. There we used to have a marathon assessment sessions, and there was a push and force and whatnot, and people have to come here and assess things. See, look at this LMS. Look at the miracle of this artificial intelligence system. You prepare one course in Moodle, or you prepare one course in Google Classroom, you prepare one course on Microsoft Teams, or whatever software you want to use, and you have your MCQ kind of test which has ready answers, and maybe the number may be 10 or 100 or 1,000 or million, you don't care, you just give a test. And when student just takes the test, just at the last click, when he clicks that submit, he can see his grades. And you can also, and your grades are automatically used. And see, another very interesting thing of artificial intelligence is, if the teacher is smart and if they really want to use it, then I tell you friends, this LMS gives you all statistics. So say for example, I have 100 students. These students, in which scale they are poor, in which skill they are poor, in which question they are not able to perform well, in which kind of question or answers they are performing well, or there are many other things which we can look at. And when we plan the next teaching session, before that we can look at this analysis and artificial intelligence created analytical picture or a tabulation, and that can help us a lot in doing that. VR and AR in the classroom. We all know that visual learning and overcoming, visual learning possibilities. VR and AR equipments, they are all available with all of us, and that we can very easily use them. Digital media and literacy, online courses and learning. People have talked about, even Dr. Amin Patel has talked about online courses, and other friends have also talked about it. So I don't think I'll repeat it. There are just two things which I'll talk about. One is use of AR. Use of AI, artificial intelligence, use of AR, that is artificial repositories, and we can even think of corpora studies. Corpora is something which we don't touch here generally in studies. So I would recommend that we should think of the corporas because India is very rich in corpora because we have these many languages. So corpora, testing, LMS, and use of artificial tools, artificial intelligence that can really make our work so simple with less load, more creativity, and more fruitful. It will be more fruitful, and we can connect with students in a better way, and we can really create them as better students. We can imbibe better skills in them, which are futuristic skills and which are really very much required for the future generations. And we can build the future of the nation, future of the country in a better way. I guess with these words, I'll conclude my speech. I would like to thank the organizers once again. I would like to congratulate and thank the organizers. Thank you very much for giving me the space to talk to these many friends. And it gave me a chance again to talk to Charlene and Parin, old friends. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your guiding and enlightening words. I'm sure we can inculcate more AIs and ARs in our digital world. I now welcome Dr. Paresh Joshi, who is Professor in Department of English, Veer Narmad, South Gujarat University, Surat. And this session will be chaired by Professor Jagdish Joshi. I welcome you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. I guess, is there anybody who is going to introduce Paresh Bhai, or shall I, Aishwarya?
Sir, it would be a privilege if you could introduce him in a better way.
Dr. Paresh Joshi is a professor of English in Veer Narmad, South Gujarat University, and one of dear friends. He is a technocrat, and I could see them almost whenever I look at any webinar at national level nowadays. I could see his face there, and really he is versatile personality, and he is talking on different subjects, different topics, and a true teacher in the sense, a blend of research and teaching. I could see that he has produced many students who are really making difference to the education. So without wasting more time, it's over to Dr. Paresh Joshi. Paresh Bhai, I invite you to have your session. I deliberately use the word Paresh Bhai once again.
I think Paresh would sound much better, Jagdish Bhai. Thank you very much for your kind words. I think this was a learning experience for me, listening to colleagues like Jagdish Bhai. Charlene ji is around, and I think I learned a lot as far as online teaching is concerned. I have delivered some sessions myself, but then I could actually learn quite a few things. Thank you for that opportunity to learn. Well, before I begin, I would very sincerely express my sense of gratitude to Parul University. I would congratulate Parul University at the same time for organizing an event of this magnitude. If some of you have logged in a little late, there are as many as 250 participants in an international conference from different nationalities. Dr. Om Joshi has been interacting with me on various aspects of the conference, and therefore I have known right from the conceptualization to what we are seeing today, the actualization of the conference. So hats off, Parul University. Formally, I express my gratitude to Dr. Devendra Patel, the president of Parul University, Dr. M. N. Patel, Honorable Provost and the patron of the conference. We have a very dear friend, Dr. Jagdish Joshi, an educationist, as the chief guest. It was really pleasure having you, and it was really pleasure listening to you. We have guests of honors, Professor Jitendra Shalin. He's a friend again. I have personally interacted with him, and it was really nice to see you here. We have Mrs. Pareen. It was again nice to listen to you. I also thank Dr. Santosh Nair ji as a convener, and thanking Om Joshi in a very special way for his continuous interaction with me on this particular conference. I know we are, this is an extended session. We had an opportunity to listen to scholars. Today I have decided to share some of my insights in an interesting area, and that is the title of my keynote today is Lockdown Literature, an Indian Perspective. So I would share my presentation with the permission of the organizers. All right, I believe uh, both my video and audio is all right. I need a feedback if I can get it.
Yes, it is all right, Paresh bhai.
Thank you, Jagdish bhai. Let's begin. As I said, I am going to discuss lockdown literature and Indian perspective. The reason why I chose this area for a keynote is primarily because it is so very fresh. Some of the literature has been just published before few days, and it is so current. It is so contemporary. This is the literature which probably shares the kind of anguish and the kind of horror and uncertainty that all of us feel. And I thought it would be wonderful to talk about things that are present, and I believe this would probably be the first time that we are discussing literature which is right from the frying pan. It feels hot and fresh. So let's go on to find out some of the interesting perspectives that I have, some of my humble insights that I probably experienced while thinking and researching on this area. I would begin with this Mark Twain statement. A cliched statement very familiar to us when we say truth is stranger than fiction. And truth is stranger than fiction is something that has been used and overused in movies and other platforms. But when we read the entire statement carefully, but it is because fiction is obliged to stick to possibilities, truth isn't. And you would agree with me if I say that there has never been a time more precise than our present time when this statement feels so true. Truth to us today is really more stranger than fiction. We've never experienced what we are experiencing, even in the fiction. And precisely Mark Twain gives you the reason why. Fiction is obliged to stick to the possibilities. So the possibilities that have come about, as a reality today, the lockdown, for example, the world had never seen them. And therefore, it feels so right to say that truth is stranger than fiction. Horribly so. Time in memoriam, right from cognitive revolution, as we started shaping languages, stories have been the reason why we have probably been able to grow as species. The book Sapiens, A Brief History of Mankind, narrates an interesting evolution of sapiens from insignificant apes minding a business in East Africa to the dominant race of the entire planet Earth. So all I want to say is, right from the time in memoriam, we have lived with stories, we've created stories, and stories have been synthesizing agents. They have allowed us to group, regroup, and grow into what we are today. I want a very quick, perspective on evolution of storytelling. It's like how did storytelling evolve? It is very interesting to think that the first form of storytelling was visual in nature. I mean, if you think of evolution of languages, because evolution of languages and evolution of storytelling go hand in hand, according to me. Interestingly, I have had the opportunity to study literature and study applied linguistics, and that's something that I'm trying to merge here. In a very quick perspective, we're trying to understand that, few thousand years back, we were using cave paintings, for example. The cave paintings are the examples of the prehistoric times where someone did a cave painting because he wanted someone else to see what they were doing, as sharing what we experience has been one of the human instincts. So visual, as languages evolved, that visual form of storytelling was converted into oral stories, and that oral rich tradition probably lasted for thousands of years until we invented the system of writing. So look at this, from visual to oral. Once we start having scripts, storytelling becomes written. We start writing manuscripts, and from there comes an era of printing, which takes the world by frenzy. Dissemination of knowledge was possible. We need to thank both Gutenberg and Caxton for giving us printing technology. Then we come to the era of electronic storytelling. You suddenly have radio and television changing the entire nature of storytelling. And look at this, every single phase, right, from visual to oral to written to electronic, these were major paradigm shifts in the way story was told, one, and the way story was received by the readers, if I put it there, or listeners, if it was an oral tradition. With the advent of computer, suddenly the entire storytelling space becomes digital. The multimedia technology adds color to it, and the nature of storytelling completely changes, transforms itself. To what we are today, for example, we have what can be told as transmedia medium of storytelling, where probably we are using all the previous visual, oral, written, electronic, and digital. All of them come together to tell stories. For example, if you see what is happening, you have most of the literature, new literature, published in the digital form, in the online. The self-publication is a norm. Once the content is published, there are interviews with the author on YouTube. There are visuals. Transmedia, for example, you take the example of Harry Potter. You would have T-shirts, you would have pens, you would have keychains. So that is how there are multiple mediums used to penetrate that story, as against that very prehistoric, unadvanced form of visual storytelling. So this is how we have evolved. When we go to literature and pandemics, I'm coming to the point that I was trying to make. As I said, I am willing to share some of my insights into lockdown literature. But let's understand pandemics. From again the times of Greeks to till today have always been the part of human history, and it has troubled, it has challenged human existence. And those horrible challenges, the anguish felt by the human beings, have got expression in literature. As it is stated by Karthika VK, the publisher, Western publications, like all major events in history, be it war, pandemic, responses in the form of art and cinema and books are bound to keep coming for a long time. And the present corona pandemic was no exception. There has been a tremendous response in terms of the art, for example, cinema. Barring cinema, you have books and other art forms which have expressed the kind of anguish that mankind has experienced. So there has been a long-standing relationship between pandemic and literature. If we talk about role of literature during pandemics, I believe it plays a vital role in framing our responses to the pandemics. You know, there have been pandemics like the deadly Black Death, the plague, you know, and they have challenged the human existence, and they have been portrayed in various art forms. Literature was no exception. So if we look at the present context, for example, you know, if we go through this literature, it would allow us to help us frame our response to this COVID-19, the monster which is in the air around, and you know, the monster which has pushed us into the confines of our houses, our the very fabric of society, of networking and connecting, has been taken away. So when you talk of role of literature, it has a cathartic function. You know, it allows us to deal with our alienation and loneliness. It also helps us better understand the present crisis by looking at similar portrayals. And in the next slide, I'm discussing how various forms of literature, right from Homer's Iliad to probably Albert Camus' Plague, have portrayed literature in different way. It helps us mitigate discrimination, xenophobia, and ableism that we've experienced. Needless to discuss, our media was full of these stories of discrimination where the medical practitioners were looked at as untouchables. There are instances where they've been bitten, you know, I mean, and that's so horrifying. So not that it has happened for the first time. Literature in the history has noted these notions of xenophobia, and there are groups, you know, there are haves and have-nots, have find you know, the cozy comforts because of the resources, and the have-nots are suffering on the street. So literature has portrayed this. A guide for what would happen next. Probably literature would also give us a sort of a Q&A guide as to how we are going to survive through this particular pandemic. Primarily, literature is a political commentary on how we respond to health crisis. Let's look at some of these examples. Homer's Iliad, as back as 8th century BC, that is a portrayal of you know, Greeks you know, being punished. You know, I mean, as all of us know, until recently, these diseases and epidemics and pandemics were seen as wrath of God. And on the shore of Troy, when they were attacking, when the Greeks were attacking the Troy, plague visits Greek for enslaving Chryses. And the portrayal of the whole thing there is this disaster, this plague hits the army because it was the result of an ill-judged behavior of enslaving. Quickly looking at some of these portrayals, as you move to 14th century, 1351, we have Boccaccio's Decameron. It portrays the Black Death and the horrendous effect of this, you know, deadly disease, which almost challenges the existence of mankind. Very interestingly, Decameron, it becomes an example of how storytelling plays a vital role in the times of disaster. There's an interesting portrayal of 10 people in an isolated villa outside Florence. They are obviously isolated because there's this horror of Black Death all around. Now, they are going to be there for a long time. Now, how to survive? The sense of alienation that we experienced when there was this lockdown for about 60 odd days. So they devise a plan of telling a story each, and that is how they deal with the sense of uncertainty, the sense of fear, the sense of trauma. This, interestingly, is probably Canterbury Tales, featured into our room. But then this is how Boccaccio portrays the horrors of Black Death, and probably he also provides a kind of a remedy that if you are isolated like those 10 people, storytelling probably can have a very soothing impact on you. You have Mary Shelley's Last Man, 1826, an apocalypse novel. It's a portrayal of devastating effects of global plague set in a futuristic Britain, 2070, 21. It has also been adopted into a novel. I'm sorry, it has been adopted. The novel has been adopted into a film. Many of you would have seen it. And it very interestingly portrays just last men surviving, and there is this fat dog, and this also is a portrayal that in times of pandemics, the pets could give you company and allow you to deal with your loneliness. Alan Poe's The Mask of Red Death, 1842. I mean, if you can see, right from Greeks, we are now moving in. I'm just touching upon some of these portrayals to understand how literature, has been portrayed and how it really shapes our responses when we face pandemics like the present one that we're facing. Poe's Mask of the Red Death primarily portrays the failure of authority to contain the worsening situation. And then you have a very ironic portrayal of Prince Prospero, who gathers courtiers in the castle and welds the gate, isolates themselves, and there are these masked ball dances performed and all that. You have Albert Camus' Plague, 1942, as recent as about 70 odd years. And then you have Stephen King's The Stand. Now, these are the works of art which portray the implication of plague-like pandemics, particularly isolation and failures of the state to either contain the disease or somehow manage the ensuing panic that puts people into uncertainty and danger. We are come to what exactly I want to say. When we say lockdown literature, we are talking about some of the literary pieces which were conceptualized and created during lockdown, and some of them are published during the lockdown. And we have Renuka Chatterjee's very interesting perspective, just like we had a flood of partition novels for decades after 1947. Virus and its after are going to be written about in fiction, non-fiction poetry for a long time. And she very interestingly says that this becomes the rich fodder, for the creative creators to, delineate, these experiences of trauma and isolation in the various forms of art. And that precisely is what has happened. As I said, I am more going to focus on some of the creations which came out during pandemic, and I'll be more concerned on Indian perspective on lockdown literature. But I'm tempted to take this very interesting poem written by UK's poet laureate Simon Armitage. The title of the poem is Lockdown, and the poem is very nicely written poem, which at the end says that we are going to emerge out of this pandemic, all right, slower, but he says we'll be more wiser at the other end. If this is a dark tunnel, and then if you're passing through, he's very optimistic of how we would fight back. And as I said in the beginning, Simon Armitage believes that art form can be consoling in the times of crisis because it asks us to focus and think and be contemplative. It probably allows us to transcend from the kind of agonizing pains that we experience because of the uncertainty all around. I have chosen some of the lines to discuss, which are more, in connection to the present context of pandemic. Read with me. And I couldn't escape the waking dream of infected flies. This is how the poem begins. And he connects himself to the bubonic plague in Iran in 17th century, where the flies comes along with the cloth which comes to the Yorkshire, and then it infects the entire village. And as there are some, this is not exactly, I have chosen few lines. The other few lines that I would discuss: the boundary stone that clock eye dice with its 6 dark holes, thimbles brimming with vinegar wine, purging the plague coins. Now, this is probably the connection that he draws looking at what is happening presently, where there were the boundary stones, as the villages were not allowed to move out. And these villages would put these coins into the holes which are put in the stone. And then they would pour vinegar into it to see that these coins are purged of these infected germs, if there are some. There is a portrayal of an interesting love story within the poem, which again is set into that bubonic plague of 17th century. Look at these lines: star-crossed lovers on either side of the quarantine line. And it is a story of the lovers who couldn't meet because of these bubonic plague, and they are interacting from that quarantining line from a distance. As the poem goes, still she never comes back, probably by the plague. Finally, the poem ending with an optimistic note: the air hypnotically sees through the journey, a ponderous one at times, long, slow, but necessary so. So this was the poem titled Lockdown by. We go to our Indian examples, and a very interesting examples. I would first discuss Siddhartha Gigu's Love in the Time of Quarantine. Incidentally, it is inspired by Love in the Time of Cholera, written by Nobel Prize winning writer Gabriel Garcia Marquez. There's an interesting title. Love in the Time of has attracted a lot of creators' attention. You also have a novel, Love in the Time of Affluenza, although it doesn't deal with the disease, or a pandemic. Now, Siddhartha Gigu, says that he took to writing, in the 3rd, 4th day of lockdown. He sees, an isolated family, parents and two kids and a dog just walking. If many of you don't know, Siddhartha Gigu himself experienced this anguish, being a Kashmiri Pandit himself. And he says he was reminded of him being walking along with his family, as a young kid, and he had nowhere to go. No, so this was sort of a triggering point, according to him. And he writes this wonderful novel in the quarantine time, and therefore I call it lockdown literature. This probably is a new genre, so fresh that it is still within the collective conscious of all of us, the kind of experiences that all of us had during the lockdown. The novel, for example, is told from a multiple point of views, and the book depicts the clock of about 30 days and nights in the lives of two lovers who homeless family during the nation's lockdown. This novel was self-published, and very interestingly, in the introduction or preface in the beginning of the novel, he very clearly writes that revenues generated out of this book, it is available on a Kindle if some of you want to buy it, but I recommend that you buy it and read it, because the revenues generated out of this novel would go in the social welfare. Now, that is what is written, an interesting story. Again, to familiarize all of you with some of the touching portrayals of these pandemic times, I have chosen some of the lines to quickly give you a kind of an experience of what the novel primarily discusses. Grabbing the man's arm, the woman says, "Where are they taking us?" Dragging the woman by her arm, the man says, "Someplace with a food and roof." Now, as you can quickly see, that this is probably the plight of those migrants who wanted to go back home, and they were struggling. Then you have there's this interesting, throughout the novel, you have this child continuously interacting with the father, and a lot of these ironies are expressed. The child says, "Daddy, what about the dog?" "The dog is safer here, darling, than there." Now, there is not a defined place. Just read with me this line, and that will tell you, how contemporary this portrayal is. Seeing a sprinkler nozzle aimed towards him, the man whispers to the child, "Be still, darling, it's going to rain." Now, incidentally, I want all of you to have a look at this image, the kind of irony that it portrays. The rain, we would never have imagined in our lifetime that probably some kind of disinfectant would be sprayed on human beings. Now, that is so very touching when you read this lockdown literature. And reading lockdown literature is something interesting, because it immediately connects you to the kind of situation that is prevailing. Clinging to the man, the child says, "Why is the rain so prickly, Daddy?" Don't you remember, my dear, the first rain is always prickly. So I think this was a quick sort of an exposure to what happens. As this book is self-published, self-publication has been a trend from a long time now. I just wanted all of you to know that writers like E.L. James, John Grisham, and Ashwin Sanghi are some of the very popular writers who have taken to self-publication. Although Siddhartha Gigu's choice of digital platform was probably the reason why the world had come to stand still. If he wanted to bring out a paperback, it was impossible. And we were talking about online education at the beginning of the session. The provosts, Shalinji and Jagdish Joshiji, each one of them brought out some new perspectives. But look at this, this is a whole new form of literature that is something that can instantly get published, read, and then maybe, in a week's time, you have your responses, you have reviews out, the readers would start responding to you. Now, this was never possible when, as a writer, you approach a publisher with a script, the script is then reviewed, accepted, rejected, the title is worked out. There used to be a whole long ritual of about 6 months before a particular text sees the light of the day. So that is, again, an interesting perspective to think of when you're thinking of this particular novel. The other author that I would discuss with all of you is Shobha Day. She doesn't need any introduction. Somebody who is a very bold voice, somebody who's very popular. Now she takes to, she has published multiple volumes of lockdown liaisons. There are collections of stories, very interesting stories, voicing the plight of men and women, especially women, who are struggling to keep the household intact, and then dealing with issues of loan payments. She also has a take on the manipulative behavior of men and women. As bold as she is, she also takes into the sexual manipulative behavior by men and women. But she very interestingly brings out, the plight of these migrants, and then there are characters, bad guys, good guys. That's her world. This is Sonu Sood releasing her first collection of short stories, which was published by Simon and Schuster in India. These are different forms of publications now. You see Shobha Day in conversation with Anandita Day, her own daughter, who is interviewing her on how and in what context she created all this. She obviously asks us questions on how she felt about the digital platform. She talks about why she chooses to portray more bad guys than good guys. Shobha Day responds, to the darker portrayals of characters and situations that, dark times call for dark stories. And look at this, in the lockdown phase, she very clearly says that this was an interview put together by Teamwork Jaipur Literary Festival, streamed on 24th June 2020. And she says that in all, she could create, or she could put together about 45,000 words on canvas during lockdown. So these lockdown liaisons are various volumes of short stories that have come out. There's one more writer, whom I would love to discuss, and that's Gayatri Gill, author and script writer. And very interestingly, she started writing because she wanted to express her feelings, and she informally starts putting them down on a piece of paper and then shares it with friends informally again on a WhatsApp platform. Which gets wonderful response, and because it gets wonderful response, she decides to again digitally publish it online. The day before day, lockdown stories. It's a collection of about 10 short stories. Short stories, in the precise definition of short stories, it's an 8 to 10 minutes read. There's wonderful illustration by Niyati Singh. It is illustrated by some wonderful sketches, which add more perspectives to the narratives that follow. And Gayatri Gill has brought out human emotion in its raw form, just as it is. No fancy drama or words to go away from the story. So this was, again, a very interesting portrayal by Gayatri Gill. This is very interesting. Ravinder Singh, who's doing a series of digital love stories for HarperCollins, very interestingly says that there's this biggest challenge. If you're dealing with romantic stories, love stories, and in his word, I quote, the biggest challenge is how uh, do the boy and girl meet in the era of social distancing. There's not even a chance of love at first sight. So how do you bring the characters together? And then he goes on to say that uh, in one of the stories, these lovers are standing in the balconies of different floors um, of their flat, and that is how the romance develops. Uh, Finally, I began with the UK's poet laureate, and then we looked at Indian, lockdown literature, some of the literature that I'm familiar with. Not that I have read everything, but I am familiar with most of the texts that I have discussed. There is an interesting local perspective that I wanted to add. Int'l, it's a Gujarati magazine which publishes creations in Gujarati language. It has come out with Corona Visheshank. For those who don't understand Visheshank, it is a special edition which was contemplated, which was conceptualized, and there was such a tremendous response that now they are publishing this Corona Visheshank, the special edition on Corona, in Purvard and Uttararth. I mean, there is going to be one more volume, and it is full of some wonderful Gujarati poetry. I'm familiar with Int'l, which is recently published. It's June 2020 edition, because my honorable colleague and head of the department, Veer Narmad South Gujarat University, where I work, Professor Rakesh Desai, many of you know him as someone who is an authority in comparative literature, has been someone who was into creation. And when we meet, after the lockdown, as universities open, he shares his experience of, how he was inclined to write during the lockdown. And then he creates the Ashtak, 8 poems, Gar, that is home, Sheri, Sparsh, Pili Chakli. Now, these are some of the wonderful pieces of creation that I went across. It's something that I recommend, at least to those who know Gujarati well. So that precisely is what I wanted to say when I talked about lockdown literature, that there has been a long-standing relationship between pandemics and lockdown, pandemics and literature, to be precise. And these experiences of mankind have got expression right from Homer's Iliad, as I said, to Albert Camus' Plague, and Stephen King's novels that we discussed. And there are various interesting efforts by Siddhartha Gigu, and then we have Shobha Day, and finally Gayatri Gill. These were some of the perspectives that I wanted to share with the participants, and I thought there'd be nothing better than talking about something very current, something very fresh, something that we are experiencing, something that we have all experienced very painfully. Thank you all very much for being very patient listeners. I once again thank Parul University and congratulate them for putting together such a wonderful event. It's over to the organizers now.
Thank you, sir, for shedding some light on literature through the eyes of Indians. I hope it would have edified everyone. Now I take the privilege to welcome the preliminary speaker of the conference, Dr. Anupam Nagar, Principal of Gurukul Mahila Arts and Commerce College, Porbandar, Gujarat. It is an honor for us to have a personality who has done remarkable work in the field of academics with more than 50 publications of books, papers, poems, articles. I request Dr. Anupam Nagar to share his views. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. I would like to make a presentation. So just share my screen. Hello, could I share my screen, please?
Brijesh, sir.
Yes, sir. You can click on the right side bottom of your screen. There is a button called Present Now.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
And select the entire screen.
Okay.
And there will be a dialog box appear in your center of your screen.
Yes.
Click inside that. A share button will be enabled. Okay, fine. You can minimize your browser now. Yes, make the presentation in full screen. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, all the authorities and the organizers of Parul University. It's a brief presentation that I'm going to make. The subject, of course, has been deliberated at length. So I'll move on to the next slide. The first 4 slides, as you would note, they in fact very precisely codify the subjects. I'll begin with language and literature. Innovation, naturally, when the very term is spoken, very often, one tends to look upon it as something that is novel. But in here, I would want to make a departure and draw the attention of all to this term innovate, which means renewed, altered, from the verb innovare, wherein in stands for into and novare for make new. Innovation is not just a new creation, but then also adding a new perspective, that which is already there, that which is already in existence. We tend to renew it with our perspective, and that is a domain that I would want to explore. There has been much of theory, and I would want to focus primarily on the practical part as to when we are talking of innovation in language. I think the most important thing is the creation of content at the school level, at the undergraduate level, at the postgraduate level. What is the kind of content? I think Jagdish Bhai had spoken about this. The level of content is synonymous with the kind of consciousness and the creative spirit that an individual has. So the levels, are so very, very important while determining the content and how we go about creating it. So in that context, again, there were references made to gamification and embodied learning, again by Jagdish Bhai. I would not dwell at length that, but then I would draw your attention to the last line that we have here in the slide, that having innovated, the challenge is, how long can we hold on to that? The staying power and the degree of authenticity. I think Shalin sir very, very clearly outlined it in his presentation, that authenticity is one very important yardstick of research, and that the real challenge is to go on thinking and to go on innovating. It's a process. It's not a point in itself, and that the process of innovation, in fact, is not just being up to date, but then it's being up to the moment. I'll explain it using two very good examples, two very, very popular examples that we have in the world of literature. Take, for example, this quotation by Milton in Paradise Lost. What though the field be lost, all is not lost. The unconquerable will and immortal hate, and study of revenge, immortal hate. And courage never to submit or yield, and what is else not to be overcome. Pardon the repetition there. Let's take the first line there. What though the field be lost? As a student of literature, if I'm teaching Paradise Lost at the school level, at the college, at the undergraduate level, at the postgraduate level, how would I be innovating sufficiently to explain the context of the poem? We know the background to the narrative, the background to Paradise Lost, how Satan, he fell for 9 days. He went on, his entire team of gods, demigods who were exiled from heaven, how they went on falling for 9 days and 9 nights, and eventually landed in Pandemonium. And here is Lucifer, now rechristened as Satan, making an effort to inspire and motivate the fallen angels, no longer the archangel now. And that this word field, innovation would be in the class, innovation would be in keeping with the text that I have in front of me. So it's not just about literature. What though the field be lost? The word field there, would also draw our attention. If, for example, I have to introduce blended learning here, I would want the students to know what a field is like. Say for instance, here in Gurukul, in Arikanya Gurukul, we have the Rajwari. To have an idea what a field is like and what it means to lose a battle. And that there is agriculture being introduced, there is the science of agriculture being introduced with literature. And then in the very next line, all is not lost. The unconquerable will and immortal hate. Those two very, very famous expressions. Something very Tennysonian, to strive, to seek, and not to yield. To ought good would be our task, and to delight, and to do ill our sole delight. All is not lost as something about psychology as well. You have a person who has been exiled, and that he has to motivate, he has to employ psychology, he has to employ psychiatry, and that he has to ensure that all that which has been lost is in fact, not everything, the will, that he has, this is something which is so very true of the idea of innovation. Innovation is all about, the expressions that we have had in the previous, deliberations is all about the unconquerable will. That, okay, this is a challenging situation that the country is facing, and that the will to innovate, would remain unconquered. So there is psychology being introduced here. There is, of course, critics are of the opinion that unconsciously Milton was on the side of Satan. But then, independently, this text incorporates much more, and courage never to submit or yield. The inspiration, could be recontextualized, could be recritiqued, and that if you have that will, and if you have that desire, that self-belief, that was mentioned by the provost, I believe, yes, self-belief that all is not lost. So there is, this integration of a variety of disciplines, in this example that we have. Let's take another example. The example that we have from Hamlet. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it's nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing end them. To be or not to be, that is the question. The summum bonum, of our very existence. The two roads that we have, every human being, every individual, it's not just a literary question, or it's not just a question of, who takes over in the context of the play. It's not to be seen just in the context of the play, whether Hamlet deserved the right to succeed his father, or whether Claudius was the right choice, or all those problematics. I would not want to go into that. But then, as a universal question, this is a challenging situation. Do we sit back? In the innovation aspect that I would draw the attention of all. Whether it's noble in the mind to suffer, sit quiet. Okay, there is a pandemic which is on. We sit at home. The slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Okay, this is destiny. It's destined for us. We believe in the karmic theory. Or do we rise up to the occasion and take arms against the sea of troubles? The metaphor that we have, talking in terms of the Mahakavyas that we have, it was only God, Ram, who took arms against the sea of troubles. But then as a metaphor, the sea of troubles that we have here is transdisciplinary in nature. The subject is not just literary. There is to be or not to be. There is also a question whether, in terms of the purpose of our existence, whether, we come into this world with a purpose, whether that purpose is to be realized or not. At the spiritual level, there is a political, dimension to the question to be or not to be. Should he avenge the murder of his father? In terms of the notion of divinity, that surrounded the king, to be or not to be. So when we talk of innovation and literature, I would strongly recommend that we have very short examples in front of us, wherein blended learning or integrated learning, that from one text, a number of other disciplines also, could be addressed and taught. Moving to the third, innovation and culture. I think in terms of culture and in the context of India, there cannot be, better reference points than Mahatma Gandhi, then Rabindranath Tagore, and Sri Aurobindo. And of the three, I have chosen Rabindranath Tagore here, for this particular poem, that I have, supplemented with every codification that I have done here. When we are talking of culture and innovation in culture, there is always a utopian experience that we carry in our mind. The Ram Rajya, for example, that we have, the Arcadia that Sydney talks of, or the El Dorado that the Americans talk about. That state of utopia, is possible here and now, but then the condition is that we have to be absolutely fearless, where the mind is without fear. Culture and innovation in culture is only possible. There are shifts to be seen here, and the centripetal and the centrifugal point happens to be the mind. And if the mind is fearless, there is, as you would see towards the close of the presentation, there is this cultural matrix which emerges. The cultural matrix is the principle of selective assimilation and accommodation. We take the best, from both the cultures, the Western culture and the Eastern culture, but then the condition is that the mind is to be without fear. And if the mind is fearless, moving towards that utopian experience, wherein all that which is best, culture, in fact, encodes the idea of having systems, of having practices, of having traditions, that are universal in nature, and that they are the best in themselves. Let's take the second quote that we have: carrying an empathic attitude. Empathetic, and this is empathic, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. I think there is a whole philosophy embedded in this expression, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. You see, this is in keeping with the philosophy of Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. The ancient sages and seers never said, Bharat Samasta, or, a particular territory. It was the world, and that this world should not be broken up. I think some very, very good examples were given by Paresh sir, in terms of the lockdown literature, wherein, we transcend categories. Literature is transcontinental, it is intercontinental, intracontinental, it's interdisciplinary, all because somewhere, we tend to carry that Sahridaya that Bhartrahari talks about, the Samhirdaya and the Sahridaya, wherein we are able to identify with the problematics that are around. The collaboration for change is the third code, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit. To rise out of orthodoxy, is the mantra that Tagore gives us. And that clarity of thought, say for instance, when we are studying Aristotle's Poetics, we often, read that the plot, which of the 6 elements, which are so very important into making, a good tragedy, a plot automatically accommodates a character and thought, and that thought, that expression thought, it is at the mental level, and when the mind is fearless, and that when we are having this perspective, wherein the whole, the Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, when we have that philosophy, when we are embracing the entire world, accommodating the entire world, then the reason, of course, has to be codified in such a fashion that it moves ahead and looks for collaboration and does not become orthodox. This dreary desert scent of dead habit. One has to free oneself. This could be social orthodoxy, mental orthodoxy, aligning oneself to outdated ideologies within the need of the hour is change. And then coming to this very, very important part, the code is connecting cultures with the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action. Somewhere if we carry that belief that there is a cosmic design, and that, somewhere at some level, say for instance, when we're reading, Greek literature and Greek culture and Indian literature and Indian culture, you find that there are a lot of parallels to be seen. What was spoken by in terms of the Panchabhutas and the Panchatattva by our ancient rishis, and munis, you find the same being spoken about by some of the Greek philosophers like Anaximander, Anaximenes, Thales, Parmenides, and that, this connect is possible, only when we believe that the mind, again, that mind that we noted in the first, where the mind is without fear, comes back, towards the close of the poem, and it is again at the mental state that we need to know that we have to be always in the progressive mode, in the dynamic mode, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, and that brings us to certain thoughts about education, and that emanate from Tagore's philosophy about education. Education has to be sans boundaries, it's for all, and that a balance and harmony between man and society, knowledge and nation is pivotal. I'll quickly move on to the next few slides. The fourth aspect, after language, literature, and culture is e-education. As you have, which is one of the taglines of the Star Trek, to go where no man has ever gone before. Innovation is thinking about the future. What kind of a future do we want to give to the coming generations? And that, this has been the trend. Whether it's Thomas More's utopia or the dystopias that we have had in literature. Take, for example, the zombies that we have. There is also an imposition, of fear. Remember what we noted in the previous slide, where the mind is without fear. That state of fear also gives vent, to some of these creation, like the zombies that you have. But then, as we noted in Milton's, quote, the courage never to submit or yield, the unconquerable will and immortal hate. It is that, which gives us the push, the ability, that imaginative transformation, what is noted again in Aristotle. If you're making a distinction between Plato, if you're going to codify the concept of mimesis in Plato and Aristotle, for Plato it was literary transcription, but then for Aristotle it was constructive imagination, imaginative transformation. The code for imitation or mimesis is reconstructing, re-critiquing what is there, and therefore from the situation that we are, having that self-belief, so what would be the ways to develop innovation? Don't wait, start thinking, don't fear change, look to innovation leaders. I think some very good examples of works were given by Paresh. Again, the codes would be get out of the box and generate ideas, long thinking and making meaning. We have to think 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, and that our innovation has to have these two qualities of flexibility and stability at the same time, keeping magnitude and momentum. And again, that could be embedded in a code. We collaborate. That's the sense of togetherness, the sense of culture in terms of, say, people of various countries coming together. They create, they control, they compete, and then of course the end result, of course, is an idea. The first mover advantage to think about new and better ways of doing things. And as I mentioned when we were dealing with Tagore, the cross-disciplinary outlook, the capacity for absorbing outside knowledge, decoding the innovation code. These were some of the ideas that we could apply to e-education. And that, as I come to the concluding slides that I have, I think this is, a quote that talks much about the entire concept behind the seminar, this international conference that we have, whether it's language, whether it's literature, whether it's culture or education. I think they all come under the matrix of education. And here is Tagore in Gitanjali telling us, leave this chanting and singing and telling of beats. Whom dost thou worship in this lonely dark corner of a temple with doors all shut? Open thine eyes and see thy God is not before thee. Freeing oneself from the orthodoxy, getting out of outdated notions, the notions which have been tried and tested in the past and have not been successful. Work is worship. If I'm doing my job as sincerely as I can do, I think I'm already worshiping God. There is so much importance given to form, chanting and singing and telling. It's the look, the form, is not the content. There has to be a sync between the form and the content. And if this sync is not there, somewhere I think we are not addressing the needs of the nation or the needs of the society. And this sync is so, important here, unity of thought, word, and deed. And I think when we're talking of all these, national leaders and these grades, this is what they recommend when it comes to innovation, the principle of selective assimilation and accommodation. This is the cultural metrics that we need. So, conclusively, this, to finally share that, as Plato said, that the idea is the ultimate reality. And when we are, we're talking about innovation, I, of course, would stand for idea. As Francis Bacon said, that if you have a rupee and if I have a rupee and if we barter, we are poorer by 1 rupee each. But then if you have an idea and if I have an idea and if we barter, we are richer by 2 ideas each. So innovation is all about ideas. It's all about being novel, and that novelty, of course, does not mean creation out of the blue. That novelty, of course, could be in terms of a different perspective, as we noted in the definition that we saw in the first slide. Yes, it has to be natural. There has to be something organic about it. It needs to be organized and varied at the same time. It shouldn't be a repetition of something which has already been said. Old wine in new bottle, as they say. It has to be absorbing. There has to be a time factor attached to it, integrated learning, and that this is the moment. We have to rise up to the occasion, take the challenge, and ensure that all that what we innovate is for the nation. So the final reference, Tagore as a reference point. I'll finish the presentation with this quote from Tagore. Tagore's nationalism Tagore rejected the modern mechanical learning that focuses merely on cultivation of the individual's mind in favor of learning that encourages creativity, imagination, and moral awareness of students. I think the last three terms, creativity, imagination, and moral awareness, which of course I would stress much upon that. If these are taken care of, I think innovation in language, literature, culture, and e-education is, of course, the way forward. Thank you so much. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir, for those illuminating words. It was really a pleasure to listen to your wonderful talk. Now, I would like to welcome our next plenary speaker, Dr. Anup Nair. It is an honor to welcome you, sir. He is an assistant professor in Bishop Moore College, Mavelikara. He is granted guideship by the Syndicate of University of Kerala in the subject of English language, published many books, articles, and have many translation works in his name. He has served as a language expert, resource person, and a moderator in various events, councils, and conferences. Along with this, he has headed many translation workshops, mainly in Gujarati, Hindi languages into English language. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Shreya. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Am I audible? Yeah. So it's raining here in Kerala, and it's quite windy too. So in case if the connection goes off, if the broadband connection goes off, do tell me. I'll try and connect it by other means. Okay.
Sure, sir.
Dr. M.N. Patel, the Provost, Parul University, Dr. Devanshu Patel, President, Parul University, the guests of honor, Pareen Somani, Professor Jitendra Shalin, the chief guest for the day, Dr. Jagdish Joshi, my
Hello. Your entire screen. You will get a network box.
Am I audible now?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I think it got disconnected. So Dr. Anupam Nagarji, who just gave the preliminary talk, it was wonderful, sir, listening to you after a long time. Mr. Santosh Nair, the convener of the conference, Dr. Om Joshi, co-convener, thank you for inviting me, and I'll try and put my views forth on this conference topic. The first thing that I'd like to talk on is the word innovative. The word innovative in the international conference is interesting, not just because it shares the idea of novelty with the novel coronavirus that is dictating how we spend each and every waking moment of our life, but also because it stresses on how we got to accept the fact that the world as we know it exists so long would never be the same again. Therefore, innovative and out-of-the-box ways of thinking is a need of the hour. As academicians, teachers, and scholars of English language literature, the terms under scrutiny, that is language, literature, and culture, assume added significance. The last term, online education, if you ask me, shows both the helplessness of the times as well as the promise of a new, or should I say, innovative future, while simultaneously harboring anxieties immense in nature. Let me first begin by looking at the first word in the title, language. Language, as we all know, is all-encompassing and dynamic. Our involvement with language is twofold. We shape language, and at the same time, we're shaped by it. Language both constructs the power structures that constructs the dynamics of our existence, while being simultaneously modified or reconstructed by the same structures. For example, colonization is said to be more of a cultural project of control and not just a military one, and I suppose all of us know that. Language, which is at the disposal of the centers of power, defines and shapes this culture, which in turn contributed to the success of the colonizing project. I'll take the example of a Malayalam word called kanyi. I suppose Mr. Santosh Nair and Aishwarya Nair would be familiar with the word kanyi. Kanyi is a staple food of the Malayalis. It's a rice gruel preparation. It's been a staple food of the Malayalis since ages. But then the interesting thing is that kanyi is also a form of an abuse. So if I call